Some people call me the space cowboy. Yeah.
Howdy everybody, welcome to Andy's Knowledge Report, a special secret closed door briefing on vital information about Scientology and the world that you need to know. Today's Knowledge Report is a reading of the History of Tegeeack document. And I will be adding some minor comments into it because it's quite a long document, so I can't add a lot. But I'm going to read it out so that you don't have, if you like to listen to videos and you want to hear someone read it out, as opposed to reading it yourself, because you can just Google it and find this document, which is exactly what you should do. You should go Google it and find it. It was written by an independent Scientologist. And so you can Google it and find it. And also, if you download Scientology tech on the internet, you might come across it. That's actually how I first came across it. I just downloaded a bunch of Scientology tech on the internet, and there was some other information. There was even some information about alien bases, I think. And so I don't know, someone just decided to, I guess, put in some extra info that relates to Scientology, but is, by independents and stuff. I mean, usually the Scientology tech you get on the internet, it's just a huge file of just everything, which I think is best. Just put everything in there. And anyway, what this is called it's called the History of Tegeeack, and it's a PDF. And I'm just going to read it out, but it's amazing. It's worthy of making a video because I think a lot of it's true, and if a lot of it was bullshit, then I wouldn't make a video on it. And it's got some good information, and it starts off with the line, "What happened to the Church of Scientology after 1981?" So that's a great thing, because we want to know what happened to the Church of Scientology after 1981. And I talk about a lot in my videos and stuff, how the church got taken over in the early 80s, and this explains it. This is really deep. I think it was written in about the year 2002 or something like that. I don't know who it was written by. I just know it was written by an independent who seems to be a part of Ron's org. And when I first came across this, I was just like, whoa, this is really deep, and it was talking about stuff that I didn't really know about, but the stuff I did know about, I agree with it and I thought it was accurate, but there was a huge chunk of it, maybe 50% of it, I didn't know about. And so I was like, whoa, if this is real, whoa. Like, do you know how in the Matrix movie, how what's his name? Neo is like sat down and he's told the truth about the Matrix, and he takes a pill and stuff, and it's like, whoa. So this is kind of like that. It's like, whoa, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just, it's epic. And so I think it's been maybe a year and a half or 2 years since I first read this, and I've been heavily looking into the whole UFO thing and all this other stuff. And it just backs up, the info I've seen backs up what this says, and so a lot of this is true. That's what I'm saying. And the stuff that is I haven't really found anything in this document, and I'll mention it if I do come across it, that I don't know if it's true or not. So I don't think this document's lying. I think the person who wrote it's smart, and I mean real smart. I'm not just talking about like some kid at high school who got A+. I mean like Scientology smart. I mean like Dr. Stephen Greer smart. I mean like Jesus smart. I mean L. Ron Hubbard smart. Like people who are just in a whole new realm of like really finding out the truth about life, and not just someone with a high IQ. This is, because you know what I mean, like Michael Schumacher was obviously a smart guy. Michael Jordan was obviously a smart guy, but they're not smart. You know what I mean? The smart I'm talking about. I'm talking about, actually really getting onto the truth about life and stuff. Okay, so I'm going to read out. I'm not going to keep on talking crap. Now, I just want to mention this. This is good to read if you're someone who's in the church and you're thinking of leaving, or you first heard about the independent Scientology field. But it's just fantastic because it starts off with the first line, what happened to the Church of Scientology after 1981? And so you're like, ooh, what's this? And then it's great. It's really well done. I also think it's written by someone from Europe and someone who doesn't have English as their first language, because their English is slightly wrong. So it could be someone from Switzerland or Germany or something like that. I don't think Russian. I don't know. Maybe it is Russian. I don't know. But yeah, anyway. Very, very interesting. Have a listen to this. I'm occasionally going to add little short comments because I don't want to crap on too much. This might go for very long. I think to read this document from start to end, because you can't just read it, you have to clear up things and clear up concepts and stuff and read it a second time. And I've probably read it like 6 times. It's so deep and epic. Like if you just read it straight through, I think it would be at least 40 minutes. So I know I don't want these videos to be more than 15 minutes really, but they always end up being an hour, but I don't want it to be 2 hours or anything, because I want this to be great. I want this to be good. So this is the history of Tegeeack PDF. It's starting now. What happened to the Church of Scientology after 1981? Just wanted to check my mic. While reading this, think for yourself. Do not just accept this without researching it yourself. The Scientology technology works, but what about it inside the church? It has been a long and arduous search for the truth. It will reveal some shocking and relieving information. The information has been cross-checked many times on different independent sources, keeping LRH materials leading in its true form to make sure of its correct content. There are no confidential materials enclosed. Oh, just quickly, I don't think I've actually told you what this document says. You must be like, what the hell? Okay, it talks about how the church was taken over, and it talks about basically the truth about life and the truth of this universe, and it compiles L. Ron Hubbard information, and it compiles all the WOG information out there and stuff. And when I say WOG, it's not really right, because it's more the new agey stuff and the UFO group stuff, but it combines it all, which is what I've done with heaps of my studies. I've just been listening to all these things of like Betty and Barney Hill being abducted by aliens and stuff about German Nazis, and just like combining all this intel, right? Because you have to clear so many ideas and so many things before you can listen to, like, there's a lecture by Stephen Greer that goes for like 3.5 hours. It's fantastic. What's it called? I don't know, but it was done within the past few years. 3.5 hour lecture. Find it. And he just lays out the truth about the whole UFO thing. But it's so deep. It's so complex. Next minute is mentioning about mind control. Next minute about microchips. And next minute about UFOs. And it's covering so many topics that you have to know about all these things to actually hear it and understand it. So, you know, this isn't just talking about sports scores. You know, like, these are deep things, and that's why word clearing and stuff is such an ingenious thing, because it gives you the idea to go, hey, if you come across something you don't get, look it up. So if you hear something about Betty and Barney Hill, you go look it up. And I know it's annoying. It's probably really annoying listening to me if you don't know all this stuff already, because you have to spend years studying to know the stuff that I'm talking about. It's annoying and it takes effort, but if you want to find out the truth, then you've got to put in effort. You've got to look up things. You've got to go, okay, what's the Betty and Barney Hill abduction? Actually look it up. You have to go, oh, what's this Stephen Greer lecture that Andy's talking about? You have to go, oh, what's this thing about mind controlling with chips? And you have to, like, it's a pain in the ass, right? But you have to stop and clear your words. You have to stop and clear your concepts and stuff. Anyway, so this is really cool. I really like it. All right, let's continue. So it says there are no confidential materials enclosed. Okay, prefix. Ever wondered while reading LRH materials and comparing that to present time that something is wrong? Obviously, this is really targeted to someone who's involved with the church. It was perfect when I came across it. It was like just after I'd left, I think. Anyway, I think it was about 2 or 3 months after I decided to leave the church, because I decided it was corrupted and the independent Scientology was better, and I just started getting into the UFO thing, and a few months after I left, I was just like, what the hell is this document? Whoa! It's kind of like the Mandela effect as well, because I believe that's true and happening, and you're just like, whoa. In fact, I don't think anything beats the Mandela effect. That's mind-blowing. Like, that is just whoa. Anyway, ever wondered while reading LRH materials and comparing that to present time that something is wrong? For example, the sky-high prices, the push for stats, the mismatch between the real world and the stats seen on events, the bridge stop at OT8, the second dynamic stop in the Sea Org, the termination of some books and text like Dianetics Today. Or questions like, who is CST, Church of Spiritual Technology, that became the top of Scientology in 1982, controlling RTC and everything below that? Sorry, I want to cut in, but I'm not going to do it. Only if it's real important stuff. I'm only going to cut in if it's things that are if I've got evidences to back up this being true. I'm not just going to comment on everything, because I could comment on that CST thing, because it's like, yeah, if you're involved with the soups in the church, they don't even know. I don't think they really have any idea what CST is. They're Scientologists, but they're Church of Scientologist members, and they're not really proper Scientologists, and they don't really know the tech, and they're fake Scientologists, sort of. Really. I'm serious. This is why I like the Indies, because Indies can write documents like this, and Indies have hardcore info. That's what you get in these knowledge reports I'm giving you. I'm giving you top intel that's like, whoa, it's deep, you know? Anyway, this document is the sort of document that, what's that guy's name? Fucking hell, I bag him all the time. Chris Shelton, he would just, he wouldn't even have a hernia reading this document. He would just go, that's just a load of crap. Like, his ability to confront reality or information and actually investigate things is so low, he can't confront the truth. He's got too much charge and his implants are too charged up. He just can't look at the truth, you know. He can't see parents saying, hey, my kid got damaged by a vaccine, okay? After the vaccine, the kid got worse. He can't look at all these parents saying that and then go, well, maybe they're trying to sell more vaccines to make money. He can't think that the doctors can get corrupted and can get sold on selling more vaccines. Like, that's how messed in the head Chris Shelton is. It's so obvious. You just sit there and you look at the info. But he's implanted up to the tits, and Chris Shelton can't confront the truth. So this is like really out there stuff. I mean, I understand if people don't believe this. I mean, but stuff like vaccines and just simple stuff like the chemtrail thing, you just watch. You can see them spray the sky and then it turns into a cloud. And then you just study it, and there's this whole thingo on geoengineering and how they can change the weather, and they use it in war, and it's just a technology that the military has. It's not that out there. But it is interesting as to what they're doing with the whole spraying of the sky stuff. I'm very interested in that. But anyway, let's continue. Okay, I was getting distracted. Okay. Why did LRH disappear in 1981 and Mary Sue, his wife, and other top executives got thrown in jail? And why did thousands of Scientologists leave the church after this? Who is Ronzorg and the Free Zone that CST and RTC is trying so hard to hide and fight? What is going on? And by the way, they are trying to hide independent Scientology. They're trying to hide my YouTube channel. So like people can't subscribe to it and find the videos and that sort of stuff. That's why when you come across independent Scientology, you're like, whoa, there's this whole area now. Now I know specifically what to search for. I can find it. Because before, all I saw on the internet was like thingos about Leah Remini bagging out Scientology and saying it's evil, and people just attacking Scientology, and you think that's all it is. You think internet's just full of mainstream media and losers like Chris Shelton attacking and trying to bring down Scientology, and then you're like, whoa, there's independent, it's a whole other thing. But you have to find it. This is what I'm saying. If you want the truth, you have to go down those unusual alleyways. You have to look and you have to investigate it. Don't just expect to see it on the second page of the newspaper, if you know what I mean. All right. What is going on with these implant stations on and around Earth Ron talked about, and who is controlling them now, and do they know about us Scientologists? Where is Ron now, and is he still in contact with some of us here on Earth? Who exactly are the SPs Ron talked about in RJ67? Here you will find the answers To give a complete understanding, we will start out with the history and role of Earth and go on from there. Some references, and then just lists a bunch of different LRH lectures that he got the data from and stuff. If you're that interested in the references, then you should read it yourself, and everyone should read this themselves after they listen to this. The whole point of this video really is to just have an alternative way of listening to this piece of document and to make people aware that it exists, because it is gold. Because there are some, I think, indie Scientologists that just can't confront the truth, and they're just like, they can't confront how amazing the world is that we live in. They're kind of like mini versions of Chris Shelton's, and they think that Captain Bill's a nutter, or like they just think that like, oh no, the UFOs don't exist, that's just quirky bullshit. Like oh no, the people don't control the weather, like they don't know about these things. Okay. Oh, then there's also lists some like WOG technology and stuff about where he got his data from. A website called hiddenmysteries.com is interesting. I think it's still around. Anyway, okay. Earth used to be a wildlife area for almost as long as the planet exists. People across the galaxy traveled to Earth in their holiday time to explore nature. There were lots of jungles, dinosaurs, and other life found here. The galactic name of Earth used to be, and still is, Tegeeack. Tegeeack is located on the top rim of Sector 9, Galaxy 1, Milky Way, which has 25 sectors as seen below. It shows a little picture. By the way, I don't think I've come across anything in UFO culture about Earth being called Tegeeack. So that's just my opinion on that, because he said here the galactic name of Earth used to be and still is Tegeeack. You know, I don't know about that. I guess, you know, the universe is a big place, so certain people probably still call it Tegeeack, and heaps of other people wouldn't. You know, it's like referring to Americans as Yankees. And you can look everywhere and you just see United States, America, North America, and you just see all these other different references, and then you're like, oh, one of them's Yankee that you can call America, and like, you know what I mean? I mean, it's so hard finding out the truth. That's why anyway, go on. The Galactic Confederacy is located inside Sector 0, which purpose is to check all 25 sectors if they obey to the laws set forth in this galaxy. Sector 0 is like in the middle of the Milky Way galaxy, according to the picture. In Sector 9, there were 76 inhabited planets owned by the old Galactic Confederation. Some of these planets are already found by Earth technology. Sorry, I'll just read that again. In Sector 9, there were 76 inhabited planets owned by the old Galactic Confederation. Some of these planets are already found by Earth technology. 7 of those 76 planets are owned by the Markabians in various systems, which are all controlled by the Markabian Grand Council, located on the home planet of Markab, around star Mizar, inside the Big Dipper Sector 9. The Markab star is not related to this. This is all stuff that I can't verify. This is really out there stuff. It's the same as when you listen to some of the UFO groups and stuff that, you know, they just talk about this. There's certain things you just can't confirm. But anyway, Markabians used to be called the 5th Invader Force. So, but personally, I mean, it's a good chance this is true, because so much of the other stuff that I have been able to confirm is true. So anyway, Markabians used to be called the 5th Invader Force. These 7 planets are police controlled, and you will find lots of mind control there. Sounds like Earth, and we'll get into that. It's because we're turning into one of these planets. Anyway, the Markabians, because also you might be thinking, Andy, what do you mean Earth is police controlled? You have to understand, all the control systems we have in our Western societies, they're not called police. A guy doesn't walk in a blue uniform and a police hat and all that sort of stuff. Someone walks in saying, I'm the council inspector, or someone walks in and says, I'm the heating inspector, or someone walks in and says, I'm a lawyer, or someone else walks in and says, I'm a judge. And then someone else comes in and says, I'm the censorship authority of the media, and someone else comes in and says, I'm the local council board, and they all essentially have a similar role, and it's just different types of police to control people in different ways. It's only the actual police with the uniforms that actually have the guns and they actually really physically control people. But all that is all control, and it's gone in so much since the 50s, it's freaking crazy. Or every time you go past a speeding camera, that's a little policeman. You know what I mean? And every time you see a security camera, like in corner stores and stuff, that's almost like a little policeman. So, boy, have we got a police state going. The Markabians also interact with a race from Andromeda Galaxy, the oldest galaxy in this universe. These guys are called Andromedans, or simply the Greys. Used to be called the Fourth Invader Force due to their skin colour. Some time ago on Tegeeack, these Greys tried to convince humans they were a mixture of humans / reptiles. Hold on, I think I read that wrong. I'll try and read it again without putting any pause. These guys are called the Andromedans, or simply the Greys, used to be called the Fourth Invader Force. Due to their skin colour, some time ago on Tegeeack, these Greys tried to convince humans that they were a mixture of humans / reptiles that came through evolution. Later they said they were from the planet Betelgeuse, Sector 9, and finally they convinced that they are from the Andromeda Galaxy. Here is a sketch of them, and it's that classic picture of the big sort of grey head, the classic alien one with the big eyes and the small little mouth. Yeah, just you've seen it before, but yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, I mean that's the most common alien that people claim to have seen is the Greys, and the Greys seem to be there seems to be a robot version of the Greys, and I'm pretty certain about that, by the way. The robot version of the Greys, because aliens have these advanced robots, because that's what you do when you evolve as a civilization. You make a full-blown robot, and the robot, I think, seems to be based on the Greys. I guess they made the robots look like them, the same as we would make the robots look like us if we made... Well, we're making human robots now. But also, speaking of that, it seems like the other popular alien races, like the reptilians and the Nordics, which are like tall, good-looking blonde people, they seem to use these little grey-looking things as well as robots. So this robot's a popular model of robot in the universe, basically. It's like lots of people driving Ford cars, really. Okay. But it seems like there are the Greys, which might be taller, and then the robots, which might be the 4-foot ones. Or maybe the Greys, they're both 4 feet. But I think that the Greys might be 5.5 feet or something. It's so hard finding out the truth on these things. Okay, about 75 million years ago, there was an overpopulation problem amongst these 76 planets. They had, on the average, over 150 billion people per planet. The choice was made by Xenu, a top-ranking officer in the Markab Confederacy, to make an end to this. This was accomplished by sending most of the people... Sorry, this is interesting because he goes into a little bit into Xenu's story, yet he seems to be a behind-the-bridge sort of guy, and he says he doesn't go into confidential information in this. So obviously his interpretation of the LRH tech is that it's okay to talk a little bit about the Xenu story. And I think that makes sense. Can I say that? Because LRH wrote the Revolt in the Stars movie script, which goes a bit into the Xenu story. Oh, well, it sort of is a Xenu story, but I don't think it's exactly the Xenu story. I think it might be a bit Hollywoodized or whatever, because of being made into a movie script. So if L. Ron Hubbard put this story out into a movie script and wanted to get it out there in the public, by the late 70s, his opinion was that it's sort of okay to tell people a bit about the Xenu story. Obviously, it's not good PR, like as in people who, like Chris Shelton, have a hernia hearing about it, and other people just think it's totally ridiculous, even though it's a big universe, anything's possible, you know. But see, my idea of the OT levels, and from my interpretation of what I've read of LRH's tech and what I've read of the OT levels, is that you don't talk about these OT levels because some bad guys might get their hands on the technology, so you don't want them to get their hands on the technology. You only give it to people who are, you know, up to that level of the bridge and who are eligible for it. Also, if you run it on someone or whatever, then that can key them in and kill them. But just telling the Xenu story, I don't think that does anything. I don't think L. Ron Hubbard's, the whole don't talk about the OT levels thing, I think it's a paranoia that the church has, where they just take LRH's idea and they take it to the 100 millionth degree, and that means that you just can't talk about anything, you know what I mean? And you know, this guy obviously doesn't think this is confidential, and so it's just kind of interesting. I get where he's coming from, and I sort of agree with it. It's not like I'm going to go make a video, even though I did talk about the Revolting Stars, but not like I'm going to go make a video saying this is a Xenu story and really tell people what's in OT3. But I think what I'm trying to say is LRH's idea of making it all confidential, I think it was to do with the fact that, you know, he doesn't want getting into bad people's hands, and it was more the actual auditing stuff, not just telling a story about how there was an incident that happened when Xenu got, you know, blew up some volcanoes and shit. And also, it's a possibility that by the late 70s, enough people had run out this incident that people don't get keyed in by it. You know what I mean? Like, people here, what I'm trying to say is people in the church, they go, oh my God, I don't want to hear the OT story. And it's just like, no. I think you're getting confused. It's you don't want this run on you, you idiot. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you can just hear the Xenu story now and it's just like a science fiction story, you know. But yeah, so it's just, what L. Ron Hubbard is trying to say is saying, you know, don't audit it out. Don't audit it until you're ready for it and you're actually qualified for it in the church. Anyway, all right. So about 75 million years ago, there was an overpopulation problem amongst these 76 planets. They had, on average, over 150 billion people per planet. The choice was made by Xenu, a top-ranking officer in the Markab Confederacy, to make an end to this. This was accomplished by sending most of the people to Tegeeack on a false purpose. He then nuked Tegeeack, killing everything alive, and then implanted these thetans hanging around. The details of this incident and the solution is disclosed in the OT3 materials. Some information can already be found in lectures given in Phoenix in 1952. Interesting, huh? So that again sounds like another... Anyway. Some commanders... Anyway, that would be the lectures. The church is probably even selling those lectures. You know what I mean? There's not, and people who aren't up to OT3 are hearing those lectures, which has some information at the Xenu event. So it's just like, you know, calm down about the whole. Don't talk about these levels. Oh, you know. Some commanders of the Galactic Confederacy, among other L. Ray, body name L. Ron Hubbard, found this out and tried to stop it. This had failed. Since that time, most of these 76 planets have been left behind as a desert. The Galactic Confederation held a council meeting on planet Pearl on top of Sector 0 Milky Way, gathered all information on the incident and traced Xenu and sentenced him to confinement on some distant planet. This entrapment was good for about 70 million years. The council also decided to make Tegeeack a restricted zone, meaning a no-fly/contact zone. This was done because of all the radiation surrounding the planet. This layer of radiation has been found by scientists not too long ago, dating it back to 70 million years. After the radiation settled down, missions were sent out to bring back life. This was done in Africa. After life had spread all over the planet again, the council decided to put in different races of bodies on Tegeeack to help out these implanted Thetans still hanging around about 1 million years ago. Different body races, because these implanted beings came from 76 different planets/races. That is why in auditing the GE you will find yourself suddenly on a different planet instead of following the evolution here on Earth. Okay, so this is saying that human bodies were put here on Earth, and there's a lot of evidence that backs that up. I totally believe that's very likely the case, very, very likely the case. And also it talks about how there was about 1 million years ago they started putting human bodies here on Earth. Now, I know you hear the standard archaeological say like humans evolved 200,000 years ago or something, but the thing you have to understand is that, and this is what I've looked into that backs this up, is that their dating methods are really crap. Like if you look into it, you hear these sorts of things in high school. They go, oh, the dinosaurs were around this 65 million years ago and we found this fossil and it's 30,000 years ago and stuff. And the truth is that that's a guess. They kind of don't mention that, or they make out as if the guess is a really, really good guess. So when Chris Shelton goes, oh, you hear Andy Noach and this thing is reading out, it said 1 million years ago human bodies started up on Earth. It was actually 200,000 years ago. It's like, no, shut up, Chris, you idiot. Shut up. That method that they use to date those bones and stuff is actually quite crap. And our mainstream scientists and modern scientists are shit. You know, like NASA have the really good ones. The secret scientists out there in the military, they have the real top scientists. But the ones that we get are just these really crappy ones, and they use these crappy dating methods, and they're inaccurate, okay? So I just mentioned that. Okay. Just look into it, just like what this document says. Investigate it. You don't have to believe me. All right. The Markabians saw these new developments as an opportunity to use Tegeeack as a prison planet for their outlaws. These outlaws were given complete amnesia, Thetan-wise, and have been exported to Tegeeack. To prevent these outlaws from coming back, the Markabians have made several implant stations in and around Tegeeack. Makes sense. Our world is really, really corrupted. Really, really corrupted. It would make sense if there's been an alien race that's been using this place as a dumping ground for bad spirits, basically, bad Thetans. I mean, look at our politicians and our leaders in society, and look at Prince Charles and shit hanging out with pedophiles, and you know, these, and just the amount of pedophilia, and there's a lot of top people in this world who are just downright dirty bad. To me, it sounds like that makes sense that this place is a jail, is a prison for bad Thetans, and some good Thetans have got caught up with it. And hey, maybe I'm considered a bad Thetan, or just I did something bad in a previous life a while ago, and I've been caught up in this thing and been locked up. Anyway, on Mars they made a huge implant station. This is the Markabians. On Mars they made a huge implant station with millions of bodies in porn. Sounds like the Matrix movie, huh? Exactly. See, I've heard, see what I mean? There's stuff backing this shit up. They used the technology of the old Slickus civilization, which started with these multiple body/mind control. What is basically done is a Thetan is being, see how the English is just not quite right? What is basically done is a Thetan is being trapped in a body who is then to believe that he is that body. Then the implanters will impose heavy pain and hypnotism on him and tell him he has to pick up a body over at Tegeeack. They even tell him how and report back when that body dies and forget the rest. Then he is sent to Tegeeack in some sort of ice cube. Hold on, I've just got to mention this thing that I heard. I remember hearing it, and I'll never forget. By the way, this mind control thing is totally true. They use it on NASA astronauts and stuff like this. The fact that you can hypnotize someone and then tell them to go kill their wife or something, it's possible, it can be done. It's not out there. The military secretly has this technology and stuff. What was I going to say? I remember one time I was volunteering for the church, and I'd only been involved with Scientology for about a year, and we're selling stuff, we're giving out flyers. Some guy came up to me, he goes, I went to hospital and I had surgery or something happened, and he goes, I woke up on like a whole, he goes, I woke up on like the other side of the universe or something, or like on another planet. And I think he said he saw aliens or something, and he goes, and then I woke back up, like on Earth where he was. Like, so it was like a really wild dream, or like he didn't seem to make out as if it was a dream. He was like, no. When I was going to surgery, I suddenly appeared on the other side of the universe or on another planet or something, and then he woke back up again, and he was so like blown away with it. He only told like 1 or 2 people because it was like, what the hell was that? But then he came up to us because he goes, oh, I heard you guys are into aliens and stuff, and he's like, he told me this is what happened to me, and he goes, so, you know, I know you're not full of bullshit or anything. And I was like, whoa, that's deep. So he could have woken up in his body in porn. And there's a lecture when L. Ron Hubbard talks about this. Like, he actually talks about this. He says sometimes if a Satan on Earth is going through some trouble or something, and they're kicking their, like, something's happened, like if they're going through trouble on Earth, then their body in porn can sometimes respond, and like they'll kick their leg at their body and they might wake up or something like that. L. Ron Hubbard actually talks about this happening, so I was just like, whoa, I've heard about this happening. It's interesting. I've had other people come up to me. I remember someone was doing objective auditing, and they were like, they started talking about the bodies in porn thing, and I was just like, wow, you must have had a pretty wild experience on that objective process. Like, that is friggin' cool. So maybe he woke up in his, while he was getting objective processing, he went through an engram or something of a body in porn or something. Anyway, okay, so I'll read this again. What is basically done is a Thetan is being trapped in a body who is then to believe that he is that body. Then the implanters will impose heavy pain and hypnotism on him and tell him he has to pick up a body over at Tegeeack. They even tell him how, and then report back when that body dies and forget the rest. See, this is the program they do to keep the prisoners here on Earth. Now, we here, if someone be bad, we then put them in jail and go, sorry, bad for being a pedophile or bad for stealing from 7-Eleven, you go in jail, right? Now, if we keep on evolving in like 2,000 years' time, and we understand the spirit and how things work, you can understand how we could get to a point where we go, well, shit, these bad people we're sending to prison, they just die and they reincarnate, and then they keep on bloody well being bad. So how are we going to handle this spirit? So then we work out a way. Our new jail becomes a processing facility to wipe their minds and make them keep on reincarnating in a little bad area. It's like sending all these criminals over onto an island and saying, you stay on that island, that's it. And so like sending all these bad spirits over to a certain area where they keep on reincarnating, they just get stuck there, and then we're like, great, they're out of our crappy civilization, we've solved that problem. So this might sound really, really out there, but you have to think, where will we be in 500,000 years? We'll invent this sort of cool shit to handle prisoners, and then we'll imagine the garbage disposal system in 500,000 years. It's going to be wow. It's going to be like, whoa. It's going to be like you put something in a box and you buzz it and like, no, and it's just gone. Like, that's the sort of stuff. Or you put something into a little box and it turns into a phone or something, and you're like, whoa. And you use the phone. Like, you have to understand, you have to think, these things aren't that ridiculous. Okay. I'll read this again. Then the implanters will impose heavy pain and hypnotism on him and tell him he has to pick up a body over at Tegeeack. They even tell him how, and report back when that body dies and forget the rest. Then he is sent to Tegeeack in some sort of ice cube because a Thetan thinks he can be trapped in it, and goes on living in some body. Once the body dies, the Thetan wakes up in this body in porn over at Mars, and the implanters will repeat the sequence. It's a very clever implant, isn't it? So it just, because someone dies, the Thetan goes, you're worried about the Thetan running off. So what you do is you have the Thetan programmed, because what I'm trying to say is bodies die. So why don't you give a Thetan 2 bodies, and then when one dies, then he switches to the other one, then another one dies, switches to the other one, and that way you have the Thetan busy and just continually being trapped. It's clever. Once the body dies, the Thetan wakes up in this body in pawn over at Mars, and the implanters will repeat the sequence. Now, if this does not work, Mars has another trap that is a very high frequency beam that looks like a purple tunnel that can capture and trap free Thetans. So you always have plan Bs, and actually, you should always have plan Cs. Actually, you should have 3 plans, like really lock it in. So they have this other plan B to lock it in. Like for example, when the CIA did 9/11, right? They didn't just have a one plan. They had like plan Bs and plan Cs and even plan Ds. And actually, it was like a flow chart basically. So you start here, and then you go, okay, so we make this happen, and then we want this to happen. Now, if that doesn't happen, then we go down this chart, we go down this way, and then in this situation, we have to do this, and then we go down, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, though, you work down the flow chart, and you have building 7 fall down, and then you have another plane hit one of the buildings, and you have another one go down, or whatever, and then you release reports to the media, and then you make sure the media are thinking what you're thinking, and then like, it's a very intelligent thing that the CIA do, and that's how they can get away with doing a massive crime like 9/11. You just do a flow chart, and you go, okay, so this, blah, blah, blah. So that way you have all the bases covered, all these alternate routes, and at the end of the day, you get to the bottom of the flow chart, which is a full-blown terrorist attack, on American soil that's a reason to justify increasing government power and starting a war in the Middle East. You get what I mean? So you have different ways of reaching it. That's what they had for 9/11, and they were sitting in their underground base and shit, and they were like getting the reports going, okay, blah, 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 blah. It's really interesting. I got that intel from their remote viewers, but it makes total sense, and it's so what they do. It's just how things work. Okay. Oh crap, where are we? Okay, yeah, it's talking about, now Mars has another trap which is a very high frequency beam that looks like a purple tunnel that can capture and trap free Thetans. Heaps of people have near-death experiences, and they see this light and this tunnel, and they go, oh my god, it's amazing, and it's just a whole theta implant. And when you listen to a lot of the new agey info and the stuff, spiritual stuff you hear about people talking about between lives and meeting God and stuff, you hear people describe like implanty things. Basically they go, oh, you know, like I left my body in the hospital and I saw this amazing light and there's love and beauty and I heard this amazing sound, and they're like, they describe how they got implanted. And you hear stories about it, and people also say, they go, oh, and I met Jesus, and then I agreed to something, and then I completely forgot what it was, and then I woke back up on Earth. And you're like, oh, you just had your memory wiped and shit. And like, you're like, well, you just went through an implant. Like, but the person's like, yeah, but now I've got meaning to my life. I'm here to tell everyone. And they're like a Catholic priest now, and they're like, I'm here to tell everyone God's the word. And like, yeah, you got to watch out for the devil, and like, you want to go to heaven, and like, and they're actually being a good person and trying to help the world, but they're kind of, their whole spiritual ideas have been confused after their implant they got. It's kind of funny. Anyway, yeah, this tunnel is a definite thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's there, but a lot of people, you know, obviously we can't see it with our eyes. When we leave our body in exterior eyes, then we're like, oh, in theta land, and we can just like see this theta trap that they've got. Now, this implant is said to be done in 66 days and only done on the more strong thetans. There are also many other There are also many other stations that work on amnesia alone. The following image is the current situation on and around Earth. Most of the individual bases can be found in the appendix. As an example of the more familiar ones, Groom Lake, Nevada, which is the Area 51, And then there's Dulce Base in New Mexico, which is pretty popular in UFO lore. And there's Pine Gap in Australia, which is in the middle of the country, and it's like Australia's version of Area 51. There's Los Alamos in California. Gosh, that part of America is so cool. There's so much going on there. Where California meets Arizona and meets New Mexico, like basically where Las Vegas is, that would be a cool place to live. Like as in, wow, and there's heaps of UFO sightings there and stuff. And there's just all these underground bases that are within a short distance of each other. It's amazing. Many of them are all cross-connected with underground tunnels. Yes, I've heard that as well. I've looked into a lot, and they've got magnetic levitation trains. So the trains don't have any wheels; they just levitate, which means you have less friction, so you can go faster. And they're vacuum sealed, so there's no air, so that the train just goes and it can fly like a bullet and go like 7,000 k's an hour. I think, yeah, about 6,000 k's an hour. That's how fast it can go, because you're in an underground tunnel. There's nothing there. There's no air. There's no nothing. You're floating, and it's magnetic levitation. That's why with these trains we use here, especially in Australia, just like these crappy old 1920s technology. Anyway, and you shoot along the magnetic lev, and you can go from one thing to another in like 10 minutes. You know what I mean? And it's a huge distance covered. And they've even got apparently cross-connected tunnels with all these bases. This is like the CIA or the US military or whoever teamed up with the aliens and stuff, and they're building these bases. They've also got tunnels connecting them all over the world, because there's like, in this photo it's showing the base locations, and looks like there's 40 of them, but they're in all different locations in the world. And they've actually got, because they've got these machines that can dig, I mean, they've got UFO technology, it's epic, of course they can do amazing stuff. They can dig the tunnels, and they've dug tunnels to Australia. And I'm not kidding, I calculated it right. I calculated how fast these trains are and stuff. How would they go from California to Australia? Well, they can do it in like less than an hour and a half, which is pretty epic. And you're traveling from America to Australia in less than an hour and a half. Like, that is like, whoa. And it's the center of Australia, you know what I mean? So this is the sort of technology they've got, and there's heaps of information backing them up. And this is basically, the X-Files was true. It was written by a person who had been looking into all this sorts of stuff, and he had some intel and all this sorts of crap. And that's why the X-Files isn't just made up. Like, it's actually true. This sort of stuff's going on. And even those monsters you see on the X-Files, where sometimes they have an occasional episode with a monster, and you think, well, that doesn't have much to do with the UFOs thing. That's just a silly story about a monster. The problem with that is that these genetic scientists and these advanced military things and all this sorts of stuff, they are literally making monsters. Like, they're making fish people, and they're making, like, I don't know, Alex Jones sometimes talks about him. He goes, I think they're called chimeras or whatever, but Alex Jones is like, what the hell's going on with this government? And they're making these like blah, 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 blah. But this is what you do when you have advanced scientists. You're doing things secretly in underground bases so you don't upset all the lefties, you know what I mean? And you do all these things, or you don't upset the Christians for being God, and you experiment, and you mix dogs with cats, and you just do all this wild shit. I mean, and so you create monsters, literally. And so if one or two of them might have got away or something, then that's like an X-Files story, isn't it? Basically. So yeah, I mean, I agree with this. I reckon these bases are true, and there's a lot of intel. I mean, there's no chance of getting into them because they've got incredible security, but you can get into them spiritually. Yeah. All right. So he shows a map of the world. And you have to understand as well, if this is just a secret underground bases, but if you saw a map of US military bases in the world that are like not secret ones, it would be a similar map, like where the whole world is just littered in all, like every city. I mean, there'll be more than what they've got with these secret underground bases, but I mean, US military is just epic. I mean, there's bases everywhere, in like nearly every country in the world, the US military has a base. And that's not including the secret ones. It's just epic. It's just like, what the fuck is America doing with all these bases in there? It's like, talk about taking over the world. It's just like, whoa. It's wild. It's so out of hand. Venus has an old abandoned implant Venus has an old abandoned implant base. And you might go, Venus is like this burnt out place. What are you talking about? Well, I've heard in UFO lore, I think like George Dansky and LH has said it, like Venus isn't what you think it is. It's not some giant gas ball. NASA just tells us lies about everything. NASA was lying about the moon landing. I mean, there's just so much stuff they lie about. Anyway, so Venus has an old abandoned implant base. Phobos, a moon around Mars, is one big Markab base. However, not involved in this game here on Earth. Now, you have to understand, the universe is just like Earth. You know, we have some big empires like America with bases all around and then secret bases and stuff. And so the universe is the same thing with planets, and then there's sometimes planets that team together, and then they're like United Planets of America, and they're just like all these planets that are united, and it's just a bigger version. And then on Earth, it's like there's some really tall, skinny black people, and here there's some like blonde people, and here there's like people with like flat noses or whatever and slanty eyes, and it's just like it's the same with the universe. Here there are people who are reptilian. Here there are people who are little greys. It's just common sense. Okay, it's not out there. It's not stupid. It's just how things are. There are other planets there. You know, they've got other beings on them. It's not so out there, and they're and out there on this moon around Phobos, Phobos place. That's where they have a little base, and the human race is already apparently setting up bases on Mars and on the moon, and so it's just how things are. It's not like, oh my god, crazy science fiction. It's just, you know, normal. And I think it might be Phobos or something. One of them there's all these monuments and stuff that NASA has just been not telling us about. We've just been lied to about the whole ET thing and the whole truth about Earth. It's just epic. Anyway, there's an astronaut that says he's like, check out the moon on Mars. There's an obelisk. Because it freaking well is, and then there's satellite data proving it. NASA try and blur the photos to hide it up and stuff, but it's just like, this stuff's out there. All right. The Earth moon has not always been around Earth, as it originates from the Markavians, been moved to Maldek in our solar system, and then to Earth. Has multiple huge operational bases under the ground and is metallic from the inside. These bases are in contact with Pine Gap, Area Cape Farvel, and Diego Garcia Island on Earth. Very interesting. Yeah, I've heard that the moon is metallic, and it's an artificially thing that was created. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on with the moon, but of course, you know, when I first read this like 2 years ago, I was just like, whoa, that's so out there, whoa, you know. But yeah, I mean, just as the civilization improves and the technology advances, they can get to the point where they can build almost planets. It's just possible, and it's just how things are. It's not that like, whoa, you know, it's just, you know, show an iPhone to people 2,000 years ago and they just wouldn't believe it. The Chris Sheltons would have hernias looking at the iPhone, and they would say Andy's making shit up. But this stuff is, you know, actually true. By the way, I just thought I might as well mention this because it's interesting. These people who are like Chris Shelton, who just can't handle the truth, when you actually finally do have a hardcore piece of evidence that you can actually show them that says, look, you're wrong, Chris, this is what's going on. Do you know what they actually do? They literally faint. They can faint, and they can also have a heart attack and die. There are some people who, I'm not kidding, that's how low their ability is to confront truth. They can actually die. I heard of a story of like someone working in these underground bases at Area 51, and by accident they just walked past an alien, because there are some aliens working in Area 51 and stuff. But usually you're supposed to get all this special clearance, and you're supposed to be briefed on it, and you get told the truth about the aliens on Gradient, and then finally you can meet your first alien and you're ready for it. But if you just accidentally bump into them, It's kind of like showing Chris Shelton an alien right now. Like if I could go and get one and take him to Chris Shelton and go, hey Chris, you think these things are bullshit, have a look at this. Like he could actually die from a heart attack. Like it shocks them that much. Like it would obviously scare me a lot to see an alien, but I can sort of confront the truth, and I mean, I know that they're true, so I don't think I would die if I saw an alien just walk into the room. Anyway, but one of these scientists or whatever that were working in Area 51, they just bumped into an alien and they literally had a heart attack and died. And then after that, they enforced a lot stricter rules on where people were working and how you had to be briefed on things a lot more. But it's just amazing. People on Earth just can't confront the truth. I mean, I've just got a friend who I've mentioned about the alien thing and how I've investigated and looked into it, and he just can't believe it. He's just like, it's just ridiculous, you know, it's not possible, you know, it's just blah, blah, blah. Like they can't confront the truth. Anyway, Tegeeack became a big mess from this point on, filled with brainwashed criminals. This mess was noted by the Galactic Patrol and relayed back to the Galactic Council. You got a civilization, right? And the people who go into the leadership positions and stuff, like the priests and the Prince Charleses and all that sort of stuff, they're obviously, I guess, more able. Well, isn't, like I was saying, how Earth is really, really corrupt, and so many people are pedophiles and shit, and just dodgy people like the Clintons and stuff. Why are there so many of them? It's just like, do we have a lack of like good quality and able Satans? And it's just like, yeah, because we've been a dumping ground for criminals. So we've just had a lot of successful criminals being sent here because they've obviously done something really bad, and they're obviously, the fact that they got locked up means they can achieve something. Because if you're a vegetable and you're so unable, you can't be a big criminal because you're just unable. But in this other civilization, the Markabians, only the best, like the best criminals who are successful enough in their criminal operations then get caught and then get sent here. Do you know what I mean? So obviously it makes sense it would have a large amount of people in our population who are able and are dirty, rotten, bad criminals if they're being sent here as a prison planet. You know what I mean? It just makes sense. All right. The council decided to send volunteers out to Tegeeack to clean up the place about 10,000 years ago. However, the council did not know of the presence of the Markabians at that time. One of the beings who volunteered was L. Ron Hubbard. They got stationed over on Venus. They tried to help out these Homo sapiens by giving them spiritual technology. And there's a lot of information on that. Just check out the Ancient Aliens series. Fantastic series. I mean, they've made like 12 full seasons now. All like at least an hour long, the episodes, or 45 minutes or whatever. Epic. I'm watching them now up to like season 3, and it's just, whoa. Like, talk about people who go on marathons watching shows and stuff. This is important stuff you watch because it's got heaps of information, really high level intel. And it's not like it's got the truth in it, but it's got lots of theories like, hey, maybe this is what's going on, and maybe this is how the pyramids were made, and it opens up your mind, it gets you thinking. It's really, really good. Check out Ancient Aliens. But they talk about this sort of stuff about beings in the past visiting us and giving us spiritual technology and saying they're gods or aliens or whatever, and people worshipping them and all this, the primitive humans back then worshipping them and that sort of stuff. But it talks like this. It makes sense. You know what I mean? Okay. But in the process, they were losing crew somehow. The normal procedure was to take a body and help out and report back. Sounds a little bit like Jesus, to be honest. But some never reported back. After investigation, they found the Markab implant stations in full operation. This became a huge war around 6,000 years ago, most of it taking place in space and on Mars. And again, You hear about this sort of stuff in the Ancient Aliens series. It talks about how there were nuclear weapons used around 6,000 years ago, and people in India report seeing it, and then you can see how the ground's been melted from the nuclear weapons and all this sort of stuff. You just don't hear this crap in the history class, so you just think this is some crazy science fiction story or someone's imagination gone wild, but it's just like there's all this intel backing this stuff up. You have to understand that we are a corrupted, epically dumbed down society. Damaged, victimized, preyed upon. We're taught lies. We're just... everything you know is wrong. The normal procedure was to take a body and help out and report back, but some never reported back. After investigation, they found the Marcab implant stations in full operation. This became a huge war around 6,000 years ago, most of it taking place in space and on Mars. This was easily won by the Galactic Confederation volunteers. Part of the war took place in Egypt, where they found the Marcabians and Greys operating using the pyramids as a telepathy antenna to communicate to their home planets. Most of Egypt was wiped out after the war. I agree with that. There's intel that there were bloody aliens building these things, the pyramids, and there's underground tunnels under the pyramids that the aliens were using because they love underground tunnels because it's a good secret way to be. Humans now love underground tunnels as well. We've got underground bases and stuff. It's just more handy to have all your operations secret. And it's harder for someone to just come and drop a bomb on it, you know what I mean? And also I think it's more of a stable climate. It's easy with the temperature and stuff. Like when you get good technology, it was hard like 100 years ago to build underground bases, but nowadays we've just got the technology where it's almost better to build a huge base on the ground, like weather-wise and all those sorts of things and stuff. And yeah, how the pyramid was used as a telepathy antenna, it makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of info backing this up. Heaps of info on this in Ancient Aliens, by the way. You know, if the person who wrote this thing is listening to this video, can you give an update on this? That would be great if you made History of Tegeeack version 2 and it has more intel and it also has corrections on things if some of this stuff is wrong. So that would be awesome if you made that, released another History of Tegeeack. Maybe send it to me and I can read it out. And I won't do all this whole video commentary thing if you don't want me to do it. But yeah, that'd be great, version 2. Anyway, most of Egypt was wiped out after the war. Around this time, L. Ron L. Ray crashed. Also, speaking of that, how they're bad, the humans are bad at dating things like artifacts and stuff. When it came to the pyramids, for example, they can't really date the pyramids, and they just date the shit that they find around the pyramids or between the pyramids. And they go, oh, the pyramids were built 3,500 years ago, and it's just like, they're just wrong. And also, what they're dating as well is that they're dating the civilization, and we hear most about the civilization like Tutankhamun and all that sort of stuff. We hear about the civilization that found the pyramids, and the pyramids had already been around for thousands of years. And so they found the pyramids and then used them as tombs and built a whole civilization there and stuff and left scraps behind. So then archaeologists today come along and find those scraps and date them the incorrect way as well. The inaccurate way. And they go, the pyramids were made 3,500 years ago. And it's just like, no, that was just a civilization that came across the pyramids and were like, hey, what are these amazing buildings? Hey, let's live here and start up a civilization. You know what I mean? When it's just like they've already been there for thousands of years. It's just so retarded. But also, I imagine there are people intentionally spreading lies about the pyramids and not letting us do tours of the underground sections of the pyramids. Why can't we do tours? And why can't they open it up and say, hey, everyone look at the tunnels underneath the pyramids? You know what I mean? Like, why not? But like, it's being covered up. Why aren't they telling us about UFOs? It's all this sort of stuff, is info that we're being lied to, and the military is being kept secret. And we're just the proles, like in the book of 1984. We're just the shitty, crappy commoners, the proles, and we're degraded, and we're perverted, and we've got bad information, and they've got the high technology. They're setting up the bases on Mars, and they've got the UFOs, and they've got the intel on what's actually in the tunnels underground, underneath the pyramids, and they got it good. All right. Around this time, L. Ron L. Ray crashed with a spaceship into one of the Tegeeack mountains and was trapped on the planet. One of the later bodies he occupied was Buddha, which L. Ron Hubbard says in one of his, which I think the Creation of Human Ability book, he says that. And there wasn't that much talk about that when I was involved in the church. Like, I heard one or two people mention it, but it wasn't mentioned that much. And it was just like, see, other people in the church just don't know that much about Scientology and its history and stuff. They don't know that L. Ron Hubbard was Buddha. You know what I mean? Like, it's just... It's just, the church is just a retarded version of Scientology. By this time, Tegeeack became known as Earth by locals. Earth was under less control from the Markabians after this war, leaving the Markabians on Mars immobile, but still operating. Earth was still used as a dumping ground for criminals. Around 250 years ago, a new goal arose among the Markabians, which was to make Earth their 8th planet. See, they were using Earth as a dumping ground, but that doesn't mean that it was like their planet. It means it was just their crappy island they were sending people to. Or they didn't even really own, but they just had a system set up to just dump criminals on this crappy island. It's not like they own it, you know what I mean? So now they're making Earth one of their own planets. So they want to move here and really start doing stuff. Their goal was to make the planet 100% police controlled, with a one world bank and no cash flow, so that they can control anyone by controlling their finances. That's what this whole New World Order thing is. And there are a lot of people in the UFO world who think the New World Order is like the alien takeover of the world. And like I said, we're in much more of a police state, and they're trying to push for the one world bank, and they're trying to control people with their finances, and there's just this big battle going on. And there's just a lot of evidence backing up what this guy is saying. You know, we're the proles, remember? We're not giving the newspaper of what's going on in the universe today, you know, the universe times. We're not receiving that, so we're just here looking at heaps of information, little bit things are coming out here and there, and we're trying to find out the truth, and we're trying to say what is going on in the world and the universe, and what's with this and what's with that, and we're trying to say, look, it seems like they're setting up a new world order, and this is what's happening, they're trying to make us part of their planet. We're trying to work out what's going on. All right. Their goal was to make, hold on. The Greys helped them out with mind control to ensure this goal is accomplished. Very interesting. And this is, again, this is what happens with ETs. It's just like America teaming up with Australia. Like, different countries team up. You know what I mean? But, and also, you have to understand, the way things are really set up, Australia is almost like just a state of America. And it also is almost like a state of China as well. So they've both got their fingers in the pie of Australia. You know what I mean? And so there's CIA bases here and stuff, and we work with their scientists and their scientists work with us, and it's just like, we're just like another state. And then we've got China here, and there's heaps of Chinese people living here, and I imagine there's probably Chinese scientists working and all this sort of stuff. It's just this whole mess of like combined thingos, and so it makes sense that two alien civilizations was combined and team up and stuff, and one people will do this, one people will do that. The Greys help them out with mind control to ensure this goal is accomplished. They are the ones, and this is why, so they're using mind control to set up the New World Order, which seems to be what's going on. I wonder what these heart machines are that are vibrating the sky or putting out energy or whatever. Very interesting what that's doing to people. It might be making people behave. It might be making people a little bit scared. So maybe put out the energy or wavelength of scared. Because you can, with meditation music, you can sit there and listen to music that makes you feel soothing, Why can't you listen to music that makes you feel scared? So they put out energy, the same thing, like waves that make you feel scared. And so suddenly, all the sheeple of society are walking around feeling scared. Do you think they're going to rebel? You think they're going to tell the school to get staffed or tell the bank to get staffed or stop paying their taxes? They're scared, so they're going to go along and do what they're told. Very interesting, right? So, so that's what I'm saying. There's these heart machines that they're using and stuff. These are sorts of technology that they could be. And Tesla said this. Because Tesla was one of the first people to work out this technology existed. He discovered it and stuff. And he said that, he goes, I think he said something like the mass mind control of society is possible with these sorts of things. So now they're actually finally putting into operation like 100 years later. Not that Tesla wanted that to happen or anything, but anyway, the government stole a lot of his stuff. It's quite possible they killed him as well. They are the ones that are creating this medical chip that's supposed to monitor your health. But besides that, it has a hidden function of mind control, such as a Tegeeack or Tesla ramifications. I was just talking about Tesla, wasn't I? I want to look up Tesla ramifications. I have looked it up before, but it was before I'd actually studied Tesla. So there's a whole huge thing. You can't just look up the dictionary definition of Tesla. You can't just look up Wikipedia and listen to Tesla. You've got to listen to, like, I would say at least 10 hours worth of like documentaries and people talking about Tesla and his inventions and all this sorts of stuff. And then you actually know Tesla and you're like, oh, now I get who Tesla was and what he was about. And now I can understand what he means when he says Tesla ramifications. Well, even though I haven't really looked up Tesla ramifications. But you can understand what he's talking about. Because I mentioned Tesla before it even came up. Because I was like, yeah, this is what Tesla was on about. So, anyway. So I'll read that again. The Greys help them out, the Markavians, with mind control to ensure this goal is accomplished. They are the ones that are creating this medical chip that's supposed to monitor your health. But besides that, it has a hidden function of mind control, such as a Tegeeack or Tesla ramifications. This is a chip that Billy Meyer talks about this as well. This is a chip, and abductees say that they blow out of their nose by accident a chip, and there's a chip, and I've been wanting to interview people who know about this sort of stuff, like they're victims of this and they've been tested and they've had chips in them and stuff. It's only really like 2 people that I know, because it's really, really rare to come across. It's probably only like 0.1% of the population who have been tested on with these chips and stuff. But anyway, they don't want to do interviews, you know, and also I think they're mind controlled. They're just like, well, but I've tried to talk to them and tried to get them to do an interview, and even an anonymous one, but they keep to themselves. This is why I know that they're not full of crap, and they're not doing it to get attention, because they don't want attention. You try and interview them and you say blah, 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 and they don't want to be interviewed. They're just, you know, I feel sorry for them. It's wild. They're getting abducted by the New World Order and getting chips put in it. I mean, imagine being like that. It's just unfair. But also it seems that some people are getting abducted in like good ways, like good aliens are abducting people and keying people out and like updating their DNA and stuff and improving them. So there's a huge war going on. You see what I mean? Like there's some that are putting in chips to make people into robots. There are other people that are coming in and abducting people, and other aliens are abducting people and like healing them and keying out their DNA and making these amazing people with psychic powers, so that the humans are smarter and can counteract this. You know what I mean? They're like, okay, we'll play the same game. We'll abduct people and make people better then, and we'll screw you. You know, it's really cool. I was going to say something that was pretty out there, but anyway, I won't bother mentioning it. But anyway, there's something called like the Indigo Children and stuff. You know, I'm going to do an interview on the Flying Saucer Radio that I do, the other podcast about aliens. And I'm going to interview a lady called Mary Rodwell, who knows a lot about the Indigo kids. And she was really interesting because she talks about how these kids have got these amazing psychic abilities and how the aliens are abducting them and making superhumans, basically. And so, yeah, anyway. And it shows a picture of this T implant that was found in somebody's hand. And it says, a one world government is part of the plan. That explains the Bush administration now. Because it was written, you know, I think around 2002. As said before, actually I feel like this could have been written just before 9/11, because I just feel like there's no reference to 9/11. I think it's that 9/11 was such a big thing that somehow if you're writing this document in the early 2000s and it was just after 9/11, you would have put something in, some sort of reference to 9/11 about something. So I feel like this was either early 2001 or in the year 2000 that this was written. Anyway, as said before, the Markabians worked together with these Greys. Xenu race Markab, who was free again, body name Adam Weishaupt, about 250 years ago on Earth, was founder of the Illuminati and entered into contact with these Greys, and they settled in South America. Can I say something though? Because I just recently listened to something where L. Ron Hubbard was talking about the whole Xenu story. He was giving his lecture or whatever, like class 8 lecture or something. And he mentioned how Xenu was put in an electronic trap, and he said it's pretty much good for forever. So at that stage around 1968 or whatever, I guess Hubbard wasn't aware that Xenu was free, or whoever wrote this seems to think that Xenu got free of the trap or whatever. So who knows? That's something I didn't even want to go into. How am I going to find out the truth on that? Like, that's really out there. Anyway, Xenu race Markab, who was free again, body name Adam Weishaupt, about 250 years ago on Earth, was founder of the Illuminati and entered into contact with these Greys, and they settled in South America. Their symbol is a black triangle on a red background, using the Pentagon and other secret bases. Boom, boom, boom. I've heard a lot of UFO abduction stories where people talk about seeing people in uniforms with black triangles and stuff, red backgrounds, that sort of stuff. I don't think I've heard them say exactly that, but stuff like that. So I find that really interesting. The Illuminati symbol, also used in the Dulce base and on the $1, has an eye in it. And then they show that thing that's on the American dollar where you see the pyramid and the eye. And it says, Novos Ordo Seclorum means New World Order, and Annuit Coepus means our organisation/conspiracy has been crowned with success. Now, these Greys already lived in big underground stations on Mars and the Moon. The moon landing and Mars exploration seen on television are fake. The real ones were never broadcasted. See, when he just adds that in there as a casual thing. I do that sort of stuff in my videos as well. I just drop bombs of like huge thingos that are just like, people must be like, whoa. Anyway, so when I read that, I was like, whoa, what do you mean the moon landings were fake? You know what I mean? It's just like, whoa. Anyway, but I looked into it heavily. That's true. The moon landing, the footage you see was fake. There's all this information about it. There's hints that Stanley Kubrick were giving out in his movie The Shining. Again, that's something you have to look into for like 10 hours to like find the truth of. But yeah, the footage was fake, and you analyze it and you look at it, and what you might think is, you might watch one of those videos that says moon landing hoax people debunked, and what they do is they show points that are the crappy reasons why the moon landings were fake, and they go, see how that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, see, the moon landings were real, we went to the moon, right? But they just choose the crappy reasons. They don't, and they do a dodgy way of analysing those reasons as well. Like they go, the flag was wobbling on the moon, right? They go, the flag was wobbling on the moon, and they go, yeah, that's because the astronauts were shaking it. And they go, yeah, and that's because they knew the flag wouldn't stick out, so they put an intentional bar on top of the flag, so it looks like the flag's waving in the wind, so you can see the American flag. And it's just like, people actually know the moon landing, having investigated it. They go, well, yeah, but the reason why I think it's fake is because I've seen the good reasons why it's fake, not the shitty ones you're making for your little crappy documentary. I just want to say that because the Mythbusters TV show did something where they looked into if the moon landing was fake or not, and they picked a few little crappy reasons why the moon landings were faked, and they analyse them in a crappy way, and someone will watch that and think, oh yeah, see, Mythbusters proved the conspiracy wrong. Those conspiracy theorists are ridiculous. Ha 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 ha. I watch Mythbusters. I'm a nerd, Mythbuster. I'm Chris Shelton. Andy Ultra thinks the moon landings are fake. Anyway, there are reasons why people think the moon landings are fake, and they were faked. I'm serious. Definitely some of the footage, and a decent amount of it, was faked. And they went to the moon and they did all this other stuff, but the footage was faked because it wasn't really showing you the truth of what went on in those missions and stuff. The astronauts had their minds controlled, like memories blocked. And I didn't say wiped, I said blocked, because we know the truth of that, don't we? You can block someone's memory, you don't wipe it. It's impossible to wipe a memory. So anyway, I'll just say one of the reasons, because I'm just trying to say this so you can try and get you to believe it. You know what I mean? Because I want to let you know that there's a footage of the guy on the moon, and you can see that it looks like the background's being green screened. Like I've got really sharp eye for this because I did a lot of computer editing when I was producing the TV show, and my eyes, and as a job I do pressure cleaning, right, and window cleaning. So I got close to things and I have to look, and my eyes have actually increased in strength, so I can see fine details with things. And I did some tests on the internet, and I went really well on it because I can see the fine details and things. The background looks dodgy and shit, and you're like, that looks like it's green screened and stuff. And so they were filmed in like a studio on Earth, and I think they were done by Stanley Kubrick. Anyway, and there's also a shot where it shows astronauts standing there, and it's in daylight on the moon, basically. And so when you're in daylight, like if I'm standing outside in daylight, everything is perfectly evenly lit because it's daylight, right? But this guy's standing there as the astronaut in daylight on the moon, and the background is slightly darker, and that implies that there was like a spotlight being used and it's lighting up the area, but it was pointed at the man, so it was brighter in the middle and a little bit darker around the sides. And when I saw that photo, and there's some other ones, there's I think more than one, when I saw that, it's actually that classic photo of the man on the moon and how the background was slightly darker, I was just like, yeah, that's not right. That's a big inaccuracy. You know what I mean? If I go and take a photo of someone standing in the outside right now, it would all be perfectly evenly lit all around. There wouldn't be like a middle that's more brighter than the other. Anyway, these are sorts of things that Mythbusters don't go into when they're making the stupid little shows. Anyway, so so he's saying here that the moon landing footage was fake, and that just blew my mind, but trust me, it's actually true. We've been lied to about so many things. Anyway, around World War II, they moved, and this is talking about, I think, the Greys or the Marcabs. They moved from South America to West USA and other locations as seen in the picture of Earth. After the US government, CIA and MJ-12 group went into contact with them. Yeah, and that's why you first start hearing about the UFO sightings in the 1940s, don't you? If you look into the UFO issue a lot, you realise that there's evidence since ancient history of UFOs visiting Earth. There is, but there is something you notice where it first started to become a thing in the 40s. And isn't that interesting? Because this talks about them moving into America in the 40s. So it makes sense how the UFO sightings would increase and stuff, and you hear about Roswell and all that sort of stuff. And that was in 1947. And so, yeah, it just all makes sense. And that was when flying saucers was a thing. And then by the time of the 70s, it was now called unidentified flying objects. Anyway. And yeah, in UFO lore, there is the whole idea of the government going into contact with the and the MJ12 group going into contact with the aliens and cutting deals to get UFO technology. They used humans to build these underground stations, and the humans were strictly forbidden to talk about it, or were given short-term amnesia after completion of the task, which is totally possible. Bob Lazar worked in one of these underground bases. He would go to work every day, I'm not kidding, and they would, I think, they'll block his memory after work each day, so he would go home, and even if he wanted to tell his wife about what happened at work, he wouldn't know what he worked on. He couldn't remember it. That's how epic it is. He couldn't remember what he did that day, and then somehow he would go back to work, and then I guess when he would see his desk, he would remember his work that he was doing or something, or maybe they'll give him more mind control so they can remember. So they have the ability to make people just forget that they worked in these bases or even built these bases. It's like the Men in Black movie. It's really true. When, you know, Men in Black, how they have got their little gun, they go, boo, and they wipe your memory or whatever, and they go, you actually saw swamp gas. Anyway, no one was allowed inside these bases, even the generals, and anyone who did enter these bases was given amnesia to cover it up. Also, these greys enclosed most of the genuine UFO sightings. Okay, this seems to be implying that, yes, we have built these underground bases and stuff, but we also built these bases for the greys. That's sort of what it seems to be saying, which I agree with as well. It's sort of like I know the aliens are helping us and working with us, but and from what the remote viewing intel was that the Area 51, for example, there's a huge human base, basically, and there are some aliens working in there with us, like not many, but underneath that is a huge alien base. So it seems like this is implying, and it totally wouldn't surprise me if this is true, that these greys used us humans and the deals that they cut with the government to build them massive underground bases just for them, just for the greys, and then also some of it is ours, but it makes sense. I get that. I mean, if you've got a UFO, that technology in that UFO is so incredible, and you as an alien say that you humans, you want to have the keys to this amazing UFO, you know what I mean? We're gonna cut a deal, you're gonna build us bases and blah blah blah, you're gonna keep it secret, you're gonna also cover up the UFO phenomenon and not let anyone know about it and stuff. We've got to have our presence secret in the universe, so you've got to come up with your CIA has to come up with a whole debunking of the UFO groups and make sure no one knows the truth and put out different information and cover up the whole UFO thing. It's just a whole epic game that's going on, and that's why Chris Shelton thinks aliens are ridiculous and doesn't believe in them. It's because he's believing all the propaganda that's been put out by the CIA, which are doing it under the orders of the aliens, and it's just, whoa, it's deep. All right, I mean, Jesus Christ, oh, this is long. This is long. Do you know what? I might have to do this in 2 parts. I think I'm going to have to do this in 2 parts. I'll just finish this section, okay? All right. Also, these greys enclose most of the genuine UFO sightings around, which is very true. Heaps of people say they see the greys as alien abductions. I think it's like 90% or something, or 60%, which is still a fair bit. Truman was the first US president to know about the greys. Now, by the way, if you're one of these people that are into UFOs and stuff, this is the section, even though this is like a Scientology document, this is the section of the document where you'd really spark up. And if you're just talk about New World Order and the UFOs and stuff, and this is like more present time stuff, I just imagine someone who's into that sort of stuff would really spark up, and because this is like less Scientology related. Now, the greys offered technology like fiber optics. I've totally heard this in the UFO culture heaps, about the fiber optics not being from this earth and stuff. Computer technology and fiber optics. And if you look at our cars, for example, like I know that the Rockefellers or whatever and the top oil companies are hiding like good electric cars from us. So cars nowadays are barely progressed. It's still the same crappy petrol engine from like the 50s and stuff. But our computers have massively increased in technology, like epically. And part of the reason is because we've got these alien technologies like fiber optics and stuff. It's just, that's why you look at the 1950s computer and you look at a computer today and it's just incredible. But you look at a car from 1950s and a car to today and it's like, yeah, there's a difference, but still they can go 100 k's on the freeway. They can still be a nice smooth drive. You know, there's not a huge difference. People are still, you just look at it, people are still driving classic cars. Do you see anyone today using a computer from 1995, let alone 1955? None. You just can't. Like, that's how old they are and outdated they are. But cars, you can. So that part of the reason computers have advanced is because of this deal that's been cut with the Greys. So they said, now the Greys offered technology like fiber optics, computer technology in exchange for silence of their existence and human bodies for genetic experiments. That sounds messed up, and that sounds interesting, because wasn't I just talking about people being abducted and having chips put in them, and how they're victims, how they don't really want to do interviews and I want to interview them. These are the victims of this. I feel sorry for them. I mean, they're getting abducted and shit, and the government said, we damn well want the UFOs and we want the fiber optic technology and shit. Yeah, you can just take some people and abduct them, okay? We need to, and they say, we need to do it for national security. They go, the communists are after us. We need this technology now. You know what I mean? So they go, so we'll let them abduct some people. You know what I mean? Like, that's how you cut deals. And that's like the whole vaccine issue that they argue, which it isn't really true, but they say, you know, well, yes, some people, a very small amount of people will get permanently damaged forever from the vaccine, but it will save so many lives. They won't get a disease, so it's just for the greater good. Well, this again is for the greater good, you know? The same argument. One of the strong methods of remaining, and this is why you hear about people getting abducted and getting genetically experimented on and stuff, because it's probably the Greys. One of the strong methods of remaining relatively unknown is to invalidate anyone who says aliens and UFOs exist and cover it up with the help of the macabre news chains, BBC, NBC, CNN, newspapers, etc., and prohibit anyone releasing information about them enforced by the macabre control mechanisms. This is why you don't see genuine TV shows about aliens or genuine news reports about it. It's just a topic that's just taboo. Just don't talk about it. If David Icke's talking about aliens or whatever, just mock him and laugh at him. Or if someone says they've seen an alien or UFO, just do some crappy little report and say, oh, isn't it funny? They just saw some funny light in the sky and they got confused. And they just mock it. The media is completely controlled. Okay, now their mind control technology is in direct connection with DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, and underground bases. Very, very interesting. I think I'll leave it there because I've been going for over an hour now. Yeah, this is cool stuff. So talking about DARPA, yeah, DARPA are right up there. It's one of these, like, I think it's like a private company, but it's also getting government money to research things, and it's got very interesting information, and they invented interesting things, and it looks like they're setting up this mind control stuff. So, all right, that was part 1. So next week I'll do part 2. So thanks for listening to this Andy's Knowledge Report, all about the history of Tegeeack. Keep listening to the podcast. I'm going to make more indie Scientology podcasts. And remember, what you thought was impossible is possible.
Some people call me the space cowboy.